Some of the most important things in life never compete for our attention. They don't flash, they don't buzz, they don't interrupt. They don't demand to be noticed or insist on being handled right away. Instead, they wait quietly, present in the background of our days, shaping how life feels while we're busy looking elsewhere. And because they never raise their voice, we often move past them without realizing anything was asking for our attention at all. Yet over time, it's often these silent things, not the loud ones, that influence our comfort, our focus, and our sense of balance the most. Welcome to Quietly Important Life, a space for calm reflection and gentle awareness, a place to slow down just enough to notice what usually goes unseen. Today, we're exploring the things that we ask for our attention without making noise. Not problems, not emergencies, but subtle signals that quietly influence how we feel, how we focus, and how balanced our lives feel. Life tends to reward what is loud: notifications, deadlines, demands. These are easy to recognize because they arrive with urgency, but quieter needs don't compete for space. They wait patiently. A slightly cluttered room, a habit that no longer fits, a feeling that something is just a little off. None of these stop our day, so we continue, assuming that what doesn't interrupt doesn't require care. One of the first places quiet signals appear is in our environment. The spaces we move through each day speak constantly, even when they do so softly. A chair that no longer feels supportive, lighting that strains the eyes just enough to cause evening fatigue, a desk that feels crowded, making it harder to focus without knowing why. These details don't ask for immediate action. They don't announce discomfort loudly enough to demand change. Instead, they gently influence how we feel, shaping our energy one small moment at a time. We often adapt without noticing. We shift positions, we tolerate. We work around discomfort instead of addressing it. Adaptation can feel like resilience, but over time, constantly adjusting to small friction quietly drains us. And eventually, what once felt minor becomes something we carry without remembering when it began. Quiet signals also appear in how we spend our time, not in obvious ways, but in subtle patterns. A routine that used to feel supportive now feels rushed. Evenings that disappear without rest. Moments meant for pause that get filled automatically. None of this feels wrong. Life still moves forward, responsibilities are met, and yet beneath it all, there can be a quiet sense of imbalance. Not dramatic enough to demand change, but present enough to be felt. Time rarely announces when it needs rebalancing. It simply slips, and when we don't listen, we often notice later, wondering why our days feel full but not fulfilling. The signal was there all along, it was just quiet. Another place silence speaks is in relationships, not through conflict, but through what remains unsaid. Small misunderstandings left unclear, boundaries gently crossed, then crossed again, feelings dismissed because they didn't seem important enough to mention. These moments don't create immediate tension, they simply settle, and over time they shape how safe, open, or distant a connection feels. Silence in relationships isn't always peaceful. Sometimes it's simply unexpressed awareness waiting to be acknowledged. And when it goes unnoticed long enough, it can quietly reshape how we show up for one another. Our inner world speaks softly too. Not all emotions arrive clearly labeled or intense enough to stop us. Sometimes it's a low hum or restlessness, a quiet sense of disconnection, a feeling that something is slightly off without a clear reason. Because these things don't overwhelm us, we move past them quickly. We stay busy, we distract ourselves, we assume they'll fade. But quiet emotions don't disappear when ignored. They wait, they resurface gently, again and again, asking for attention without urgency. Not to be fixed, but to be acknowledged. Awareness doesn't always require action. Sometimes it simply requires listening. Maintenance is another quiet messenger. Things that still work well enough rarely feel deserving of care. A drawer that sticks slightly, a system that hasn't failed but isn't smooth anymore. We postpone attention because nothing is broken. Yet maintenance is rarely about repair. It's about preservation. When ignored, small inefficiencies slowly grow into moments that demand more effort than they ever needed. Perhaps the quietest request of all comes from stillness, time without input, space without distraction. Moments to notice how life actually feels beneath the surface. These moments don't insist on being taken, they wait, easily replaced by noise, screens, and tasks. And because nothing immediately suffers, they are often the first to go. But stillness carries information. It tells us when something no longer fits, when we are stretched too thin, when a change is quietly asking to be made. Without it, we can live efficiently, while feeling slightly disconnected without knowing why. If any of this feels familiar, there's no need to judge it. Ignoring quiet signals is human. Life is busy, attention is limited, not everything can be addressed at once. Awareness isn't about fixing everything. It's about notice what's been speaking softly all along. The things that ask for our attention without making noise don't require urgency. They don't need pressure or sudden change. What they ask for is presence, a moment of noticing, a willingness to pause long enough to see what has been quietly waiting. They ask us to notice earlier when care can still be gentle and choices still feel light, before anything feels heavy or overwhelming. When we listen at that stage, nothing needs to escalate. Small shifts are enough. Subtle adjustments carry more power than we often realize. This is the heart of quietly important life, learning to notice what whispers before it ever needs to speak louder, paying attention to the quiet signals woven into our days, in our spaces, in our habits, in our thoughts, in our relationships. Choosing awareness over reaction, curiosity over judgment, allowing ourselves to respond thoughtfully instead of waiting until something demands our attention through discomfort or disruption. A more balanced life is rarely built through dramatic change. It's shaped through small moments of awareness, repeated gently over time. A slight adjustment here, a pause there, a choice made with care instead of speed. These quiet decisions may not stand out in a single moment, but together they create a sense of ease that feels steady and supportive. If this reflection felt grounding or helped you notice something small in your own day or life, something you might otherwise have passed by, you're warmly invited to stay. Subscribe to Quietly Important Life for more calm, thoughtful reflections on the everyday things that quietly shape how we live. Thank you for being here and for sharing this quiet moment. Until next time, take care, especially of the things that don't ask loudly but matter deeply.